Everyone wants to know the best junglers in the meta, but what about the best junglers to main, regardless of the meta? The champs that have high signs of mastery that reward your time investment, lower ban rates, variety in itemization and roles, maybe even a very low probability of kneecap nerfs. So in this video, we will have the best junglers to main for the rest of Season 14, take into account all of these things. And first up, we have to talk about Virkayu. Yes, he is the one that has high pick rate and high ban rate, but he's not really likely to be hard cap nerfed. He's popular, everyone loves him, huge itemization diversity and different approaches you can take, but he is the epitome of a meta-agnostic jungler. He is good at absolutely everything. Ganking and skirmishing meta, he'll take care of that. Farming meta, you can rush level 6. In fact, I'm coaching so many Virkayus right now on my own strategy for fast level 6s. They have low KP, but they have the most gold by like 4,000. And that's not just a random number. I made a guy go from the same amount of gold to an over 4,000 gold advantage just today. So how can you make a champion like Virkayu actually accomplish these things against whatever you might be facing in the future months? Well, what it comes down to is understanding, first and foremost, tempo advantage with your champion, and also the fact that if you need to chill and let the game come to you, that's fine as well. Remember, you're Virkayu, so if you have a few resets later on, that's fantastic. But if you're struggling to actually do that on Virkayu or any jungler, let me help you. Come to virkayu.gg. Not only do I have a free jungle improvement resource, I also have a dedicated program with jungle video courses, jungle coaching, coaching classes, a jungle VOD library, special weekly content you'll see nowhere else, as well as all of this hosted in a private jungle Discord. And if there is one thing I'm good at, it's making junglers go from low elo to high elo, as seen by the great number of success stories from the end of last season and already the beginning of Season 14. So to climb faster than everybody you know and to jungle diff every game you play, head to virkayu.gg or click the link in the description below. But here's my three-prong approach for all Virkayu mains to use. Firstly, as you see with the build here, keep it simple, stupid. Go with your Conqueror of Rune page, make sure you have the Kraken Slayer, none of the Blade of the Rune King nonsense, get your Sundered Sky, get your Sterix Gauge, alright? That's great against comps with CC, HP, where you might be stuck and you need tenacity and you need the healing. Damage is good as well. If you're against a highly squishy comp that has a lot of mobility, then you can flex that Sundered Sky into a Trinity Force and maybe even go with like a Wit's End or something like that third if you wanted to. Now, if you truly want to go for the Blade tag, I would advise going that second. However, those builds, the first two ones I mentioned, are my personal opinion based upon coaching this champion for many years and also really studying in high elo what makes sense for the champion to actually thrive no matter what the meta is. Second thing is to focus on your clears and getting level 6 fast. Despite the memes about what level 6 spiking junglers mean, Virkayu is a level 6 spiking jungler. You want to fight over a grub pit? You better damn well have 6 while they have 5, because guess what? You kill them, you chase them, you become them, you take their camps, and you take the grubs. And from this, the pressure just keeps moving forward. And the third thing that you really need to think about is your team fighting. Depending on the build you're running, understand that you might not want to be running into the backline 1v4, okay? You can be CC'd, you can be killed. If you are playing a more squishy focused build, think about flanking like an assassin. Virkayu encompasses a lot of different skill sets, and the biggest thing is no matter how fed someone gets or how they get fed in the first place, most Virkayus fail in their teamfighting and their skirmishing. They also fail in their mechanics. Maybe you use your E into your R and W and you have nothing left to actually fight when you get there. Be patient on your abilities, know your target selection, swap your target selection when necessary, and go for resets. Now at this particular stage, you might be thinking, okay, resets, you're going to talk about Kha'Zix, right? Yeah, no, because Kha'Zix, he's been overbuffed, he's very strong, he's always kind of dominant in the meta, and as such has a high ban rate. I'm banning him, I know many people banning him, and if you're not banning him, they're picking him, so you really don't have to main this champion in this kind of environment. Yeah, he's great to OTP and have a lot of fun with, I understand these things, but instead, and I'm sorry for the sacrilegious suggestion, you should go Rengar. The champion's win rate isn't that great, but in the words of all the high elo OTPs I know, yeah, it's just a skill issue. The champion is absolutely fine, he's thriving, the meta's great for him. Rengar succeeds just what Kha'Zix does as well. You're happy to farm and counter jungle, get level 6 quickly, use that power spike, get in people's faces and snowball. It isn't more complicated than that. The thing about Rengar is while you do have many different ways to play the champion, we've got Tankgar, we have had the AP memes over the years, or not really anymore, don't do it. We do have Fighter, which has popped off this season at times. The best way to go about things is your Profane Hydra technology. Allow yourself the ability to sequence and farm and get fed. Figure out what that spike means, how it works with your triple Q combo and your other combos, and use this position of power to scale up into more crit-based itemization, because again, Rengar has always liked building crit. Back in 2020, we would build full lethality and then sell everything and go crit, because we could get Exodia all the time. A lot of the Rengar win rate problems are that they're going itemization that just doesn't really work anymore. And likewise, their play methodology is too, hey, I'm gonna go and fight stuff and try and ult and kill everything. Guys, Rengar is an incredible split pusher. You do not have to teamfight against shitty comps. All you want is Rengar, like with Kha'Zix and Virkayu, high experience advantage, huge gold lead. The KDA outside of, getting your bone tooth stacked doesn't really factor too much into how we want to play the game to scale. Once you master those early games, and again, I'll leave a link in the description below for those who don't really understand what I mean by that, and you are able to get these gold advantages quickly, you're gonna be dominating everybody. Next up, we're gonna talk about Hecarim, and I will have champions from every class, every skill level here. You'll see exactly what I think about them when I talk about them. But Hecarim is one of those where people aren't talking enough about him in a meta that is about getting level 6, farming really well, having high econ, and then coming out and carrying games. Isn't that literally the definition of what the horse actually wants to do? So much so that the rank 1 Hecarim in the world, Chasik, has actually hit rank 1 on the Korean server. Again, the guy's been challenger for 10 years at this point. I've loved covering him on this channel many times, and it's fantastic to see him reach it yet again when people are not really playing this champion a lot. 5 to 6% pick rate, low ban rate, win rate around 50%. It's not like he's lighting it up, but a meta based around rotating through all of your camps and then rotating to all of the lanes in the fights and taking those great objective fights without compromising your econ. This is exactly what suits the champion. And now, yeah, we have a bit of, damage itemization. We're not full fighters, we're not full tank, but we're not full assassin either. We've all seen the Zeke's convergence usage. I mean, it's low cost, it has a high impact, but then you obviously have the opportunity variations if you want a bit more of that lethality spike. However, when you do that, you are playing a bit more dangerous, right? You're not gonna have the same damage as he used to, and you're opening yourself up to be CC'd and destroyed. Zeke's, though, gives you all the resistances, the HP, and that huge slow in your ultimate, which means if you nail the right engage with your team, you're just priming them for success, while also being a bit unkillable yourself. There's no downside to building this way on Hecarim, and with the meta being perfectly suited to him in terms of experience, go ahead, get rank 1. But Virkayu, what about, maybe more aggressive junglers, ganking junglers in this meta when you're talking all about farming and sequencing? Well, what about Bel'Veth? Because the champion was nerfed, and then of course they adjusted it to be a little bit weaker early, a little bit stronger later. And what does that mean in a meta that we're talking about bringing our late game forward? Means Bel'Veth is fantastic. In fact, her win rate is the best in the game on the current patch at the time of recording. That might shift, but that's because people are not building the right itemization again. Kraken, Strikebreaker, Wit's End, Death's Dance, maybe a Terminus if you're snowballing hard, go for that new cut down rune to do more damage up front, and play like you've always played. The thing about my fast level 6 tech isn't that it's telling you not to gank and not to invade, it's just telling you to focus on the right play that gets you to 6 early. For if Bel'Veth is played with aggressive ganking, aggressive sequencing, aggressive counter jungling, whatever you choose, at that first grub, you will be level 6. You take the first grub, you get level 6, the second grub gives you the truest of true forms. You will look stunning and beautiful and luscious. And now, like with the Rengars, like with the Kha'Zixes, like with, well, the Viegos and anybody, get into their jungle, get into their face, kill them and take their stuff. Low jungle spacing, right? You don't want to be far away from them, you want to really be punishing them at everything that they do. But the biggest thing from this is 6 grubs plus Herald plus gold advantage at 14 equals Bel'Veth closes by 21. You use that on turrets, you have the highest damage in the game, and you split push, and you teamfight, and you flank, and you rotate, and you get resets. Just don't coin flip level 2 like an idiot. Look to full clear, look to hit a quadrant into a gank, be very focused on how you get level 6 quickly, and then run all the way home with it. And maybe if we go to, say, a Kindred, and we don't talk about rushing level 6 too much, you might understand more that it's not necessarily about that 6 spike, it's about the attitude we have in this particular jungle meta. Hey, they're doing dragon. Oh well, what else can I do? Hey, they're doing grubs. I guess I can counter jungle, kill bot lane, and take dragon. There's always something to take, always something to do, and on Kindreds, like with the Bel'Veth, if you understand that, and you don't take terrible fights, and you don't coin flip fights for no particular reason, you'll find that your champion's power curve steps up another level. You'll be able to leverage whatever experience and gold advantages you have into actual jungle suppression and denial. That's what Kindred and Bel'Veth love to do. And because you have a lot of these, as I'm talking about fast farming 6 mages and other junglers, not thinking about pressure points in the jungle, it opens it up to you, the sexy and supreme jungler, to totally dominate and take over, but you have to understand pressure. Kindred is fantastic at doing that. wall hopping, invades, counter jungling. You're not gonna AFK farm until 6 as much, you're not gonna chill and rinse repeat clears, but you will understand that those who do will have weaknesses. Where are those weaknesses? Capitalize on them, build the absolute classic Kindred builds of your Kraken Collector IE, and you will become an assassination machine. I remember years ago doing full career Kindred back in the day, and you would just see an ADC splitting and you'd kill them like you were Rengar, just a couple autos and good night. With the Kindred now, same shit. Get your grubs, get your herald, remove jungler from the game, and go ahead and shove as hard as you can. And next up we have Udyr, because in a meta, just like with Hecarim, focused on sequencing, scaling, and playing around map tempo, this is one of the absolute kings of champion design. Now, his AD ratios and his AD focus builds, yeah, they can also work here, but for the main focus, I'm talking about getting your Leandries, using the Faded Ashes, you got a Deadman's, Jack Show, Force of Nature, things like this, Mejai's, and you are simply running the kingdom. But what does that mean exactly? Well, it means if you play Udyr properly, and you sequence like an absolute Demon King and counter jungle and take objectives and split push and hit turrets, you don't need to have a lot of kill participation. What I'm talking about is 9 to 10 CS per minute average on this champion in this particular meta. The experience advantages you will have are absolutely insane. Now here's where things are interesting. You are obviously not going to have the same level of ganking success. As such, your tracking needs to be paramount and ridiculously accurate. What you want is to understand counter jungling timers, ability to fall back to objectives when the other jungler is somewhere else, and really have a good second sense about what the enemy jungler wants to accomplish, and simply remove the experience aspect of this. Force them into bad ganks. Force them into weird counter jungling moments, when of course, there is nothing to counter jungle. When you do this, yes, there are some meta counters against you, which is why we talk about playing like this. You create a huge amount of space between you and them. You're not looking to interact early against those Kha'Zixes and those Warwicks and those Bel'Vests that might actually kill you. Because eventually, with enough golden experience, you kill all, and with a few more AD focus builds, PTA Strikebreaker, guess what? Turrets are your breakfast as well. You think I wasn't gonna put Shaku in this video? I'm gonna put Shaku in this video. He is one of those champions that is really interesting this season. With the arrival of more AD focused builds in Split 1, he started to climb up the ranks of win rates. People were playing him more efficiently, they understood how to actually leverage his power into a snowball moment where he doesn't have to teamfight, and then Riot Games came along and said, what if we give you more jungle experience? Now, a lot of people thought, oh, great for farming junglers. It's also great for ganking junglers and counter jungling psychopaths. Also, when there's an item like, let's say Profane Hydra that allows you to also sequence and scale up very, very well as a Shaco. The mind games of early cheese and invade strategies, the counter jungling prowess of any jungler in the game, and the ability to rinse clear thanks to strong itemization. Obviously, the crit changes also help the AD Shaco technology. Now, you can obviously go with the AP variation with your Dark Harvests and your Blackfire Torches and Leandries. So really, there are two extremely strong potent playstyles that one-tricks are leveraging really well, and yet so few junglers are actually thinking about this champion at all, which is prime time for the Joker to come out and destroy Arkham City. Now, a lot of you are gonna say, but Kayn is weak, he's suffering, Kayn is fine. It's a good old-fashioned, you need to get orbs, you need to farm. This is an epitome of a balanced meta. I'm talking a lot about sequencing and farming in this video, but all that really means is maximize your experience. And Kayn is the definition of, hey, I gotta farm and counter jungle, but I need to get form as well. Then I need to choose the most correct form. Yes, Rast is the one that is actually struggling more at the moment, but the build is pretty straightforward if you want to go that champion. Conqueror, Eclipse, Black Clover, Sterix Gage, you got Death's Dance back. Just don't overthink your life. Play it against the heavy melees and disruptor comps, and enjoy a free win. However, Blue Kayn, there are a few variations you can go, but the one on the screen now is the best statistic one, and the one that I've seen the most success with coaching all the Kayns that I do. I coach a lot of Kayns too. And the hubris and the opportunity and the buff Cyrilda's Grudge as well, for no particular reason, gives you better rotation for farming with your haste, gives you movement speed to rotate and a lot of upfront lethality for your one-shot potential, and obviously the Cyrilda's Grudge equals extra penetration, plus 5% going forward. So while we do have Ghost Blade and Aximark and things like that, while those are tabled and okay, this build is the one I recommend. Why is Kayn one of the best though to main in Season 14? Because largely he's been forgotten about. That's just a reality. You got good runes, good ways to play the game in itemization, a nice balanced meta where you can counter jungle quite well, get form early through great ganks and fistings, and then dominate the macro game. Nothing has really made the jungle weak enough where Kayn just isn't viable. But when Kayn is forgotten about a little bit, when Kayn is a little bit weaker, he's not being banned as much, there's way worse things to play against, it just allows him to exist, to vibe, to form pick, to itemization choose, and to go through the high-level motions of dominating games. So when you are locking in Kayn as the champion you want to one-trick, I coach a lot of one-tricks too actually, this is a fantastic meta form. All of the pieces for what he likes to carry games are there. You just have to organize them yourself a little bit. He doesn't have as much free LP as he has in the past, and that is only a good thing. It shows your skill ceiling, your ability to adapt itemization and form to whatever meta you're playing, and to understand how to control games with a multitude of classes. Fantastic champion to main. While Evelynn is a champion that has been nerfed this season a few times and has been taken out of the meta rotation, you know how she got to be in the meta rotation in the first place? No one was thinking about her, and they kept buffing all of the things around her that made her strong, or just direct items that she loved to build. Likewise here, they just buffed Void Staff, which Evelynn absolutely loves. It offsets a bit of those damage nerfs that we had from the ultimate damage nerf. But 4 years ago, when we first introduced the farming meta, I made a video about the fastest level 6 you could get. This meta is the closest we've ever been to that moment. In that video I originally released, I used Evelynn and said, look at what you can do. And guess what, for this season, I didn't really show a lot of Evelynn, but I put it on a thumbnail because it's exactly the same thing. Get your 6 quickly and absolutely take over games. You're not gonna have, the same sit between turrets and have 5 CS per minute ganking and cheesing, because other junglers will be counter jungling you and taking your stuff away, counter ganking you and have a higher ability to actually contest against you. Which means the Evelynns that really understand how to pick 1, the best lane to use their level 6 on, and 2, pick their best lane to do maybe 1 or 2 ganks in a row on, those are the Evelynns that are gonna have fed laners, fed themselves, force enemy junglers to the other side of the map, and now your camouflage still becomes a big question mark. Where Evelynn is able to succeed that many are not, is that you can rotate to grubs, to dragons, to counter jungling, to dives, to counter ganks way faster than anybody else without worrying about telegraphing your moves. In this meta, telegraphing your moves is a death sentence. You want to be hidden as much as possible, and guess what? She does that for a living. Well, she actually does the succubus thing for a living, but yeah. Now, they might have taken away Nocturne's rune, and they might have taken away his ability to just run at people and kill them, but despite all of the weird quality of life nerfs that he's had in the last year, guess what? He still builds Conqueror, he can still build PTA, he can still build Eyeball and Ultimate Hunter, and he brings the darkness. So when we're talking about a meta that has a little bit less random invades, random ganks, and random fights, the lethal tempo removal doesn't affect him as much. And now you're thinking, well, if he was nerfed directly so many times, shouldn't we be worried about that maining him? No, because he's had his due. There's not much more they can nerf from the champion anyway, but his itemization is still good. Black Cleaver still got buffed. You still have the hybrid tech where you throw in an Axiom Arc, but otherwise, keep it simple. Strikebreaker, Black Cleavers, Hex Plates if you like that, Death's Dance, Sterix Gauges, just play normally, sequence and farm well, and use your ultimate off cooldown and at the right moments. Destroy fights with it, rotate to counter ganks with it, and again, like Evelynn, take care of a win condition lane as soon as you can. The absolute original ways to dominate the games for these kind of junglers back in the day was just get your 6 and use your 6. Too often in the last year and 2 years, we've had junglers like this be strong at fighting, Evelynn and Nocturne included. They didn't need to get 6 as much as possible because even if they were counter jungle, they didn't really do anything, and they could outstat check so many different junglers. Now that they cannot, now that they've been nerfed, and now that they're under the radar, pun intended I guess, it is absolute prime time to show the world of junglers that when you leave alone the Nocturnes and you underrate them, what they can still do to control games and become an unkillable Titanic level rocket. Although don't build Titanic, I should have not said that out loud. Anyway, the final pick here is a spicy one. I think you're gonna like it. Again, you assume that ganking junglers are not going to work in high experience metas. Well, yes and no. No for bad ones, yes for good ones. Elise is such a good one because your ganks are basically very, very guaranteed. Your cocoon, your dives, your pressure, your damage, out of this world. Now with Dark Harvest, you're able to scale. With Lich Bane and Deathcap and Shadow Flame, you're able to one-shot anybody. Your combo with a Spiderling Kamikaze and an E-Cocoon is unparalleled for destruction. But that also means that the higher levels of experience in the game, once you've done your ganks and your invade and your kills, you can fall back for a dessert. You can feast, enjoy, and fall back for something sweet in your camps, and you get a lot of that experience back. As long as you are ganking on the side of the map where you have camps to fall back to or camps to counter jungle, you are going to be fine. If you are ganking on the bottom side, for example, and all your top side camps are up and grubs are up, yeah, you're gonna lose. So as a ganking jungler, as a Xin Shao or Rexa and Elise, think about that when you're actually going for these higher ganking per minute sort of procedures. Most of these other junglers in this list aren't ganking as much. So as an Elise, it gives you free real estate to gank a little bit more without the counter ganks, and then use that power to push the map forward. Control your experience, control your ganks, and what you will notice is that no one's gonna ban her, she's not gonna be nerfed, no one's thinking about her whatsoever, people forgot what this champion does, she requires a bit of time to invest, which means you have that high skill threshold of a champion to main in the jungle, and most importantly, my good friends, yes, you can still have 7 CS plus per minute when you get your itemization done because she rinses the camp so damn quickly and takes care of any PvP business. That's why you're seeing certain junglers that like to go ahead and farm like a Gurren actually repick up the Elise right now. That super fed Elise mid-game farming spike is not to be messed with and really does allow a little bit of split pushing as well, so you should get your CSPM all the way up to 7 pretty frequently. And if you want to know how to use the best junglers to main to actually win games, then you need a total jungle guide, don't you? That's on your screen right now.